One escaped prisoner from the Malmesbury Remand Detention Facility is still at large. 68 inmates escaped from the prison on Friday. 65 were arrested shortly after their escape. 2 more were captured over this weekend. Now, Justice and Correctional Services spokesperson Chrispin Phiri joins us now live via Skype for the very latest. Chrispin, thank you so much for joining us. I think what got so many people talking, both here in South Africa and indeed the story has made news across the world, is just how brazen this escape was by such a large number of prisoners at the same time. Have we any idea of what exactly went down that led to these 68 prisoners making their way out on Friday?
Firstly, we can confirm that all of the escapees have now been rearrested. And Minister Lamula has really thanked members of the community, law enforcement, and also the correctional officials for their dedication to ensure that we recapture every single one of these escapees. What we have seen in that facility in particular is, in a way, what we have inherited from the past is that that particular facility was designed to house inmates who were in the farm sectors in the main and people who had committed petty crimes. But what we've seen over the years is that the type of crime that we're seeing in South Africa has evolved. So in a sense now that facility, that remand facility, now houses all sorts of criminals, and now criminals, as we know, have become a bit more violent in nature. And in a way, what we're seeing is that systemically that particular facility may not be suitable anymore to house what we now know as the type of criminals that we have. So the minister has actually then looked into commissioning a team that will actually do an assessment of all the facilities across the country to really understand what type of facilities do we have in which areas, to ensure that we're able to actually strengthen both the security in those facilities, but also ensure that the communities where those facilities are actually safe.
Do we have, I know it's early days and there's obviously an investigation that it probably is already underway to find out exactly what happened, but can you give us any inclination as to what happened?
No, certainly the investigation is underway. The Minister with the Regional Commissioner have appointed a special task team, a multidisciplinary task team, and they are looking to investigate exactly what happened. But the little preliminary facts that we know is that the offenders overpowered some of the officials in that facility, and they then were able to en masse try and escape. But what we're also seeing is that, and it's a critical question that we need to start looking at, is how our criminal justice system fails, because ultimately those type of individuals they are remand detainees. So at this stage, we don't even know whether they're actually guilty for some of the crimes that they have committed. In this case, they'll definitely be guilty for trying to escape, which is a criminal offense. And that in itself will take on its own shape and form. But what we are seeing as well is that overcrowding is a significant problem in our facilities. And to the extent that some of the officials are not able to adequately match up to the number of inmates that we have in our facilities. So this really calls for a greater resolve in resolving some of the issues that the criminal justice system is lingering with, how many days trials sit, how quickly it takes to prosecute or try a criminal in our country. These are questions that are now coming to the fore systemically.
Now, as the story unfolded, when news first broke about it late on Friday, it became evident that what had happened was that once those prisoners had broken out, they ran into the suburbs near the prison, and there was knocking on doors and on windows, and they were trying to intimidate the community. And as much as your department and law enforcement warned the community not to get involved, to make sure that they stay safe, because like you said, some of these prisoners were deemed dangerous that were being kept in this facility. The minister has gone to great lengths to commend the help of the community in ensuring that all of these prisoners could be apprehended again. Can you tell us some of how the community got involved without putting their lives at risk?
Well, when we speak of community, we also speak of family members. There are some instances where some individuals were caught at home because family members called law enforcement agencies to say this individual has escaped and has come back home. And that's the type of people that the minister is commending. And also, we're also commending community policing forums who are able to call police and say we've spotted one or two individuals in yellow uniform. They went in that direction. Also, community members calling law enforcement to say they have seen escapees in a certain direction, as well as neighborhood watch that is in that particular community. They were also able to really up the ante and ensure that they do not watch and stand by the sidelines whilst you see blatant criminality happening. And that's why the minister said, if we have citizens like this, then we can ultimately actually have a crime-free society, because if we have citizens reporting crimes, if we have citizens not standing by the wayside and saying, let us rid ourselves of criminality, you will ultimately see law enforcement being able to catch people, and also ensuring that they get their act together, because the community is on their side. And that's what we want to see. You know, Marcel, sometimes we hear of schools being burnt in our communities, and nobody knows anything, nobody saw anything, and it's simply not possible. But in this instance in Malmesbury, and again, the ministers really commended the community. We saw them being on the side of law enforcement.
What's being done just in terms of ensuring the well-being of the staff at the facility, especially those who were involved or were caught up in this escape? You said that what we do know is that some of them were overpowered. The minister mentioned one female official who was in charge of where firearms were kept, and she ensured that the escapees didn't get closer to the office to obtain those firearms. That's a quote contained in News 24 article. So a number of those staff members very much putting their lives on the line. I'm sure quite a bit being done to debrief them and ensuring that they can then eventually go back to their jobs in the best possible way.
Yes, indeed, Marcel. The staff members, the officials, some of them showed great bravery. Some of them sustained personal injuries, although minor, but some of them actually really tried to withstand the violence that came their way. They will be receiving psychological assistance from the department, and they will be undergoing some psychological work as well, amongst other things.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for that update. That was Justice and Correctional Services spokesperson Chrispin Phiri joining us live there via Skype from Cape Town. And he did confirm for us right at the start of that interview that all of those 68 inmates who escaped from Malmesbury Remand Detention Facility prison on Friday have indeed now been apprehended. And another interesting point that he brought across in terms of the community involvement in making sure that those prisoners were apprehended is that some family members called up law enforcement and said, listen, here's this prisoner or this escapee, he's come back home, you need to come and pick him up. And the minister going to great lengths to commend the community for their involvement in making sure that that indeed does happen.